So just again, from the top, I'll just ask you the same questions and we'll go from there. So if you want to state your name, age and occupation.
Cool, so my name is Alfie White, I'm a freelance photographer and I'm 19 years old. Photography's place in my life has sort of changed over the course of 3 and a bit years I've been doing it. In the past half year or so, it's sort of gone from a hobby to a really integral part to my day-to-day life and just values in life. If you ask me if I was considering photography as a career 6 months ago, maybe a bit before that, I would have said no way, it's just a hobby. But now it's become a sort of thing where I know I can't really do anything which isn't somewhat touching on photography. It doesn't have to be being a photographer itself, but some sort of influence with it. For a long while I shot film because it was easier just on a little point and shoot, and it was fun and I liked the look, and I still do like the look of it. But for me now, a large reason for why I shoot film is for the printing process afterwards. I find, hand printing it yourself and seeing that image come to life is it's just unbeatable. And when you spend so long, looking at silver gelatin prints made in the darkroom, a digital print just can't really compare. I think the best way to describe it is that I don't, and a lot of other photographers I've met who shoot only film have this as well, just don't really consider the costs. You sort of consider it as just an expense similar you would do as rent or something, or food almost. That it's just, if a film costs £30 for 5 rolls, fine, do £30. You don't really think about it. If I were to sort of take a step back and consider, is it all worth it? Yeah. So I feel like, hopefully these sort of photos remind people now or in 10, 20 years when they look back at these times, showing what was really going on. That, you might look back 20 years and it'll be saying all these news headlines or whatever's going on, but in reality, all these nice moments were happening at the same time, and that is just reality of life.
So it's just giving the window into unbiased.
I guess, yeah.
As unbiased as you can.
Yeah, essentially. And it's also a case of especially with street photography, it's a lot of street photography is a sort of classic, low down, taken from the hip photo of someone looking very miserable, and it's all very gritty and dark and grungy. The reality is, even if you live in a city, it's not like that. It's not that grungy, and adding all this clarity or contrast is misrepresenting it really. I feel like sort of capturing candid moments like these are just sort of a way of even perhaps if it's misrepresenting it in a more positive light, it's nicer than misrepresenting it in a more negative light.
We spoke a little bit before this interview and you said that that's not something you believe anymore. Can you elaborate a little bit onto that and what sort of changed within your workflow?
I think it's when I sort of think back to when I spoke then, for one, I hadn't even really been making photographs of that kind long enough to really know what I was talking about, and I just didn't really know what I was talking about. I think at the time, tracing back to the mindset back then, I was more speaking almost for myself, and I liked, I'd like to think at the time it was I liked the idea of making positive photographs, and that's what I was trying to do. So when I think back to that stuff there, Yeah, like I don't agree with it now. I say my work largely falls on the more positive side on things, but to use terms like positive and negative is too like binary. To like say that this is something, you know, I actively try to capture positive things or negative things. It's like life itself, not to get too deep into it, but life itself isn't one positive or negative thing. It encompasses both and the range between. In terms of my work has become much more just my lens on everything rather than my lens in a specific place and time or thing I'm trying to capture, for example, like street photography. And that sort of is why I struggle to define myself as anything as a certain type of photographer, just because like it is that thing of just I have my camera with me all the time generally, and it's just anything which touches me, which creates that, you know, that feeling, that gut feeling of that inclination to take a photo.
Do you think that your work aims more to put a message across, or is it more just still capturing life in front of you, or is it just a blend of both?
It's definitely a blend of both, and I think that's where photography has this weird value in my life, because it's so much personal, it's so much part of me, and I am so much part of my work. But at the same time, there's this, it's like begun to like veer off, and that's where I become more of like a documentary photographer, where it's more exploring certain subject matters or things I'm passionate about, which I think about, and which I can see photography as being a tool for me to communicate these thoughts and feelings and getting that message across. And that's when it becomes almost a bit more objective. But even still, there's a complete fusion because it's still so very much personal as well.
Yeah. I asked you the same question last year about what do you think your work is going to accomplish, and like, so if you're going to start a sentence saying, I want my work to accomplish X, what do you think that is for you now?
So what I try and search for now is just what I can, you know, make people feel when they see my photos, and if I can make them feel something good, then that's good enough to me. If it makes them feel happy, if it makes them go, oh, like, I'm happy. So I want my work to, I can't really use the word accomplish. I'd like my work to convey my interpretation of a world to the world. And then with my work and the projects I'm working on, I'd like to just shine a light on voices which aren't being heard right now, on stories which aren't being heard right now, and to convey certain people, certain themes in a light which they're not represented under in any other media.